tonight. Their furnace broke down in frigid weather. Why this family says they were told it would be weeks before it could be repaired. Protesters push for the feds to do more to help their family and friends in Iran. And we find out who's been signed and who's been released as the Riders make moves ahead of free agency.
This is CBC Saskatchewan News.
It is Monday, February 2nd, and the CBC Saskatchewan News starts right now. Hi there, I'm Ethan Williams. Thank you for joining us. A man from Hague says his family was left scrambling for heat after his furnace company was not able to fix a dangerous breakdown in a timely manner. He says he had to buy a whole new furnace, paying thousands of dollars. Aisha Ashraf has our top story.
Dad, put hand to face.
This is what Chad Dole wants to hear inside his home.
Sure.
Kids having fun, warm, and safe. But just weeks before Christmas, that sense of safety disappeared. Dole has 4 young children, including a 9-month-old baby. During a stretch of -30 weather, his carrier furnace began malfunctioning. A technician came to inspect it and immediately shut it off, and the family was left with no furnace.
I would get up several times a night to make sure my kids weren't freezing and that everything was keeping up and that everything was safe, because heaters everywhere, I mean, that's a fire hazard on its own as well.
Dole was told his furnace's heat exchanger had 5 large cracks in it.
A heat exchanger is the part of a furnace that keeps combustion gases separate from the air that heats the home. If it cracks, technicians say the entire furnace has to be shut down.
If we find a cracked heat exchanger, we're supposed to put a red tag on it and lock the system out so the homeowner cannot use the equipment because the severity of the issue can cause death.
Dole says the failed part on his 9-year-old furnace was covered under a 20-year warranty. But when the furnace technician contacted Carrier Enterprise, he was told it would take 3 to 4 weeks to replace a damaged part.
Makes me wonder, why do you offer a 20-year warranty on a part you don't have available?
Waiting wasn't an option. With extreme cold outside, Dole says he had no choice but to buy a new furnace. It cost $10,000, much of it from savings. CBC looked into the timeline of the furnace breakdown, and after reviewing correspondence and speaking with the company, CBC learned the part was available at the time, and it could have arrived within days. This came as a shock to Dole.
Whoever took the call at the parts desk didn't do their due diligence, and it cost me $10,000. I wish there was some word of caution I could give to other people, or some moral to the story, but when it's a simple error like this, these errors can cost people a lot of money, especially when you need to make a snap decision in the middle of winter. And so I just sincerely hope other people don't have to deal with this sort of problem.
Dole's now trying to get reimbursed for his $10,000 expense, even if partially, but he's not sure if that's going to happen. Aisha Ashraf, CBC News, Hague.
Sask Energy has fired 13 employees who are believed to have stolen fuel while on the job. It happened last summer in the company's construction department. Sask Energy says it is not exactly sure how much fuel is missing. A comprehensive report from an internal investigator is expected this month. The government also released details of other recent thefts from Crown corporations. It says former employees of Sask Power and Saskatchewan Housing Corporation are alleged to have misused company credit cards. People gathered this past weekend in Regina, once again drawing attention to the situation in Iran. They're calling for a change in leadership in the country, and they're also demanding leaders here in Canada take action too. Ashwarya Duda has that story.
One solution! Revolution!
Far from home, but they've got Iran on their minds and they're chanting for change.
We are here to be the voice of people of Iran who got killed.
More than 100 people gathered outside the legislative building in Regina Sunday, calling on Canada to speak out against violence in Iran.
They were just chanting, and they were unarmed people and innocent people. But the Islamic Republic shoot them and then killed them.
We should fight for our future. for our freedom, for our democracy. We shouldn't think that, okay, something happening in the Middle East is not for us. No, no, no.
Dariush Dawoodi says the past 2 weeks have been unbearable, waking up to photos of body bags. The Iranian state has killed thousands of anti-government protesters, according to multiple sources.
My families are still there. We had an internet blackout for 3 weeks. We didn't have any news about them. I didn't know are they alive or not.
These demonstrators are calling for regime change after decades under Iran's current leadership. Canada designated Iran's Revolutionary Guard a terrorist organization in 2024, but the protesters say that's not enough. They want action.
It's the time for act. Stop talking about Iran. It's time for act. Even now we are talking, lots of people are in the line for executing.
Global Affairs Canada declined to comment on whether any measures will be enacted against Iran. Instead, it referred CBC to previous statements in which it condemns the killing of protesters and praises the bravery of the Iranian people. These protesters say even though they're thousands of miles away, they won't stay silent because for them, the stakes are real and personal. Aishwarya Duda, CBC News, Saskatchewan.
Opposition leader Pierre Poilievre is returning to the House of Commons after passing a leadership review during this weekend's annual convention in Calgary. 87% of Conservative Party members say they're backing him. But as Rafi Boudjikanian reports, his next test is trying to find that kind of support with the rest of the country.
Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre seizing on a moment of success after months of uncertainty.
When you care about something, you work for it. When you believe in something, you fight for it. And most of all, when you start something, you never give up.
Conservative Party members have rallied behind Poilievre in his leadership review, with more than 87% of voters backing him. Now comes the challenge of convincing Canadians.
We know our movement is strong, hopeful, united, resolute. We have a leader that's a litigator and up to the job, and our party's endorsed that direction wholeheartedly.
Poilievre made no mention of U.S. President Donald Trump in his speech. During the last general election, he faced criticism for failing to focus on Trump's threats against Canada. Instead, his messaging centered around the cost of living. Now, his former campaign manager is arguing there is a chance to do both.
You can address what's going on down south, you can address what's going on in the world, and how it actually is going to affect here in Canada. It's staying on top of things, being adaptable.
One more challenge for Poilievre that's out of his hands, the NDP nearly wiped out after last year's election. If the party is not able to bounce back, experts say a unified progressive vote could be insurmountable.
That is just absolute death for the Conservatives. The Conservatives cannot win an election if the NDP is in single digits or even in the low teens.
While there is no certainty around the timing of the next general election, a test of Poilievre's appeal is on the horizon, with at least 2 by-elections coming, though the dates have not been confirmed. Rafi Boudjikanian, CBC News, Ottawa.
The Saskatchewan Roughriders have made some more moves to secure players and release others ahead of the beginning of the free agency period next week. And there are some well-known names that are on the latest list. Topping the list of riders who have re-signed with the team is AJ Ouellette, signing a 1-year contract extension. The star running back led the team in touchdowns last year and rushed over 1,200 yards in the regular season alone. Ouellette began his CFL career playing for the Toronto Argonauts, and between his time with the Argos and the Riders, now has 2 Grey Cup rings. Ouellette says quarterback Trevor Harris re-signing with the Green and White swayed him to stay.
I don't want to say it was the biggest part. I love Coach Mace. The coaching staff's awesome. The whole locker room's amazing, but just the bond that me and Trevor have developed over the 2 years, and then him signing and just getting pumped that he gets to play another season of football and possibly 3 more. We'll see how he feels after this one. But yeah, it was a big reason.
Edmonton up a point, looking for pressure coming.
Over the weekend, the Riders also extended defensive lineman Mike Rose to a 1-year contract, and on Monday re-signed his D-line teammate, Canadian Benoit Marion, who's been with the team since 2024. But one notable name that won't be on the Riders roster this season is veteran kicker Brett Lawther. The Green and White released him Monday after 8 seasons. Despite having one of the highest accuracy rates for Riders kickers with more than 100 attempts, Lawther struggled at times last season, missing 3 field goals in a game against Hamilton in August. The word of Lawther's release comes 10 days after the Riders announced the re-signing of kicker Michael Hughes. And amongst all the action on the business side of things, the Riders took some time to also take part in the Roughrider Foundation's Winter Classic this weekend. Current players and Rider alumni took to the ice to trade their football cleats for skates, all in the name of charity. The money raised for the event goes back to the Foundation's Win with Wellness Youth Presentations program. Stay with us, we have more news, and I'll also have a look at our forecast after the break. The latest release of millions of files related to the late convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein has revealed his connection to more prominent public figures. And not just in the U.S., more royals in Britain and beyond have been named. Crystal Gumansing has details on that from London.
Invitations for tea in a royal residence and an inquiry about how to raise thousands of pounds for a rent payment. Emails believed to have been written by Sarah Ferguson, the former Duchess of York, to the late sex offender Jeffrey Epstein after his 2008 conviction related to prostituting minors.
You can see that she had absolutely no filter when it came to talking about her own members of her family. I mean, she describes, for instance, her daughter, Princess Eugenie, going off with a boyfriend on, and I quote, a shagging weekend.
While no wrongdoing has been indicated in Ferguson's emails, the same can't be said for her ex-husband and former prince, known now only as Andrew Mountbatten Windsor. King Charles's younger brother labeled the creepy crawler by a British tabloid as new images surfaced in the latest cache of documents. There's no context for the picture of him hovering over a female, but lawyers for Epstein's victims tell BBC News there's new allegations involving the disgraced royal. CBC cannot independently verify those claims. They have not been proven in court, and the former prince has always denied any misconduct. Palace officials haven't said anything about the latest revelations, having previously stripped Andrew of his royal title. The British royal family aren't the only ones caught up in the latest round of Epstein files. Norwegian royalty are also implicated.
I think they were just lying to the public. So I find it really, really disturbing, actually.
Norwegian Crown Princess Mette Maret's name appeared nearly 1,000 times in the latest documents. In one email, she called Epstein such a sweetheart, prompting her to issue a statement admitting to poor judgment. Norway's prime minister said he too thinks it was poor judgment on the royals' behalf and is calling for an explanation into the extent of the princess's contact with Epstein. Crystal Gumansing, CBC News, London.
Well, a bit of sky starting to clear in Regina after a day of some snowfall and a weekend of some freezing rain, not just in Regina, but across the province. And it comes after a January that was actually pretty dry in some parts of Saskatchewan. We'll show you now what our sort of precipitation stats looked like through the month of January 2026 here. Swift Current, just 8% of normal moisture on the month. That puts you at the second driest January in about 140 years of record keeping. Extremely dry there. As you worked your way north, though, that's where sort of more of that moisture was falling, especially in Meadow Lake, nearly normal, and Key Lake just slightly above normal in terms of moisture there. Temperature-wise, January was relatively on average for many of us, especially if you were in a place like Prince Albert and Saskatoon, through much of central Saskatchewan, right around average, but a little bit above average in that southwest corner and slightly below if you were around the Yorkton area. That exact same scenario actually is shaping up for Monday as well. Take a look at double-digit temperatures above freezing in the southwest corner, and in east central Saskatchewan still down into the minus teens is the best we did for Monday in many locations there. Part of the reason for this is because we're still seeing that system bringing the snow, moving through eastern sections of the province, but in the western sections, they got some sunshine today, so that meant that those temperatures were able to warm up a little bit. That system is going to keep moving out, but for northern Saskatchewan, we're looking at a bit more snowfall as we go overnight. We'll stay mostly cloudy for many regions as we head into Tuesday. That is in advance of our next system, which starts moving in early Wednesday. Primarily snowfall, mostly for far northern Saskatchewan before that moves into Manitoba. And sort of trailing behind that, a little bit more snow as we get into early Thursday. But for south and central, we finally start to clear out. In terms of total amounts, probably upwards of 5 centimeters with this first round for the north, and then more substantial amounts as we get into Thursday, Friday. Some places getting into that 15 to 20 centimeter range. And that means that as we get the snow moving through the north, south, and central, the winds will start to pick up a little bit. Nothing overly strong, but a little bit of a breezy couple of days here, especially for southern Saskatchewan. Some gusts in around that sort of 40 to 50 kilometer an hour range. Some of us may be getting slightly above that at times. But temperature-wise, as those systems start to move through, they're going to draw up some southerly winds, and that's going to really bump up our temperatures, especially getting into Wednesday and Thursday. Regina getting well into those single digits above the freezing mark. Nice sunshine for Thursday. Although we get into a bit of a freeze-thaw cycle here as those temperatures will continue to drop below freezing in the overnight hours before we get into early next week, and then finally temperatures start to drop closer to the freezing mark. Same with Saskatoon, temperatures all above normal for this time of year in terms of daytime highs and overnight lows. We're talking about, well, 5 of the 7 days above freezing potentially. Some sunshine Wednesday through Saturday before a little bit of cloud cover starts to build back in for Sunday. And then as we get into Monday, we'll start to see that clear away and drop below the freezing mark. But overall, a very nice forecast for many of us ahead. Preparations are well underway in Italy for the Winter Olympics despite a few setbacks. Adrian Arsenault takes us backstage inside a hockey rink still under construction.
So here we go, 72 hours before the first puck drops the Santa Giulia Arena here in Milan. And the big question has been all along, is this place going to be ready? Well, let's go for a walk. Let's see. Because when you wander through some of the public areas, it really doesn't look like it's ready. There are no concessions ready yet. The bathrooms don't appear to have water in them yet. So there's a lot of stuff yet to be done. Does that actually matter? Talk to people here and they would say no. The only thing that matters is this. Is the ice ready? Well, the Canadian ice master, Don Moffat, told us he thinks this is the best ice he has made in his 5 Olympics of making ice. That's encouraging. If it holds to be true, that will be important because there's been so much discussion about this ice. It is not as long as NHL ice. It's a little bit wider. The test event was delayed. It didn't happen until a few weeks ago. There was a small hole in the ice. All of this led to a big concern. Will the NHL still send its players? Yes, it is sending its players. They're arriving in a place that is not as fancy as what they're used to. This whole arena was delayed in construction right from the get-go. It took about a year later to start than people anticipated. And frankly, it won't be done. There are some parts of this arena that won't be done for years because, yes, this is the only new venue, competition venue being built in Milan, but it's not really for the Olympics. This is supposed to be a huge concert venue with shopping malls. That will come many years from now. They just want to get through the next 2 weeks and make sure this ice holds. So here in Milan, fingers crossed.
And our team in Italy got a close look at the Olympic medals ahead of the Games. They feature contrasting texture, one side polished and the other side frosted. They're inspired by Italy's avant-garde design movement of the 1960s and 70s.
I got it this time. This time I got it. This time I got it. Watch.
Well, some rivalry at Regina's Golden Mile bowling lanes Monday. It was the 53rd annual Blind Bowling Challenge, pitting the media, including including our own Peter Mills and Jeffrey Tram, against bowlers from Regina's blind community. This event is put on by the Canadian Council of the Blind for White Cane Week to help raise awareness of the challenges faced by people with vision loss. Stay with us. We're back after the break. Canada's women's curling team is hopeful the Olympics in Milano Cortina will end with a medal finish. The women haven't taken home a medal since winning gold in Sochi in 2014. Alberta's Rachel Holman will lead her team of Tracy Fleury, Emma Miskew, and Sarah Wilkes to the Games. This is not Holman's first Olympics appearance. She also skipped the women's team in 2018 in Pyeongchang. Miskew is also making her second appearance, also playing with Holman in 2018. She says the team has strategies to deal with the pressure of an Olympics appearance.
The fact that we've won so many close games is actually what makes us stay calm and be able to be resilient, because we know that even if the game doesn't look like we have control at the halfway point or a little later, like we've managed to kind of squeak out wins that didn't always look good. And so that kind of, when you do that a few times, you start to be like, okay, well, it's never over until it's actually over. Let's take it to the end.
The Canadian women's curling team kicks off their Olympic run against Denmark on February 12th.
Calling line. Stay with it. Burchard staying with it now. Have you got this angle to get shot rock? Have you got it? Oh, she does. The shot of a champion.
Canada's Carrie Einerson has won the Scotties Tournament of Hearts. She defeated Manitoba's Caitlin Laws 4-3 in 11 ends. This is Einerson's 5th Tournament of Hearts title. Well, of course, Monday, a very important day in the meteorological world. It is Groundhog Day, and it seems there are some mixed results from groundhogs across the country. Shubenacadie Sam not seeing her shadow. Wyerton Willie, also no shadow, but Van Isle Violet in Nanaimo seeing her shadow. So some mixed results, but I think it's safe to say for us here in Saskatchewan, it's going to feel like spring over the next few days. We're talking about temperatures for many of us through south and central actually rising overnight to near the freezing mark by the morning. A little chillier in the north, but those are actually lows that are still above average for this time of year. And then getting into the afternoon for Tuesday, some clearing in far northern sections, could be as high as -5 in some parts of the Churchill region. For south and central, still a few lingering flurries, especially in eastern sections as we get into the afternoon, but clear out in the southwest and west central areas. But another nice day temperature-wise. And that's our news for this Monday. For news anytime, you can head to our website or subscribe to our CBC Saskatchewan YouTube channel or download the CBC News app. Thanks so much for watching.